Okay, so we begin with the Authority. I know, it's mind-blowing. Discussing the controversy at the end of the Royal Rumble. We then talk about people who didn't quite get their fair shot. Okay. Daniel Bryan comes down and talks about how he never actually got a rematch. So they're like, well, we're going to make a match. And Rollins comes down. And I'm like, I stole the show at Royal Rumble. So the main event ended up being Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, with the winner taking on Roman Reigns for the opportunity to main event WrestleMania. Yeah, I deal with mentioned like the controversy of it, and I was like, well, you know, technically, Randy Orton never got a rematch. Dave Bautista never got his one-on-one match. Daniel Bryan never got his return match. You probably also never got a return match either. After a while, you'd have Reigns, Lesnar, Batista, Orton, Bryan. Man, if you can just get a 6 name into that match. Oh, if only the E had some sort of awesome match you could have done to main event and to headline WrestleMania. If only they had some sort of 6-man match that had eliminations that might have happened in a chamber. Which would have been a phenomenal match. I mean, you know, heck, you could toss Taker into that match. Taker got his revenge on Brock Lesnar for ending the streak, which would have made it like this amazingly star-studded match, which I don't think any fan could have ever complained about, regardless of how the outcome were to be, because it would be a freaking awesome match. Just saying. The Dusts took on the Ascension because there's a lack of tag teams. And the Dusts again had a miscommunication they have on SmackDown, leading to the Dusts getting pinned by the Ascension. And now there's dissension in the Dusts. Like a year ago, they were like the most over tag team. Then, for some strange reason, they decided to and just make them suck. And Uso took on Cesaro. A great match. Cesaro was awesome. If Cesaro only was paired up with somebody who could talk for him, especially after a major accomplishment, man, I think Cesaro really could have gone places. But Cesaro gets the victory. Good match. Nice match with him. Roman Reigns taking on Big Show again. Due to outside tomfoolery, Big Show is victorious. Hey, Show won a match because he has to. And all it took was, you know, J&J Security, Seth Rollins. Pretty much, it took a John Cena-esque beatdown to defeat him. To defeat Roman Reigns. Who later had a small piece with, Daniel Bryan's talking with him, you know, he's like, you know, when I beat Seth Rollins, I'm looking for like a great match. At Fastlane. And he was like, I don't care what you want. I don't care what the world wants. Get out of my locker room. Now, the fact that the sequence began with them both sitting there, unless I like skipped, you know, a commercial and got a couple seconds into it, yeah, like, had they got in the hallway, and they're like, oh, hey, you know, when I beat Seth Rollins, I'm looking forward to a great match with you. Fastlane. And then he could have been like, you know, get on my face, troll, and it would have been okay. Because now they're going to push him as, like, loner badass. Who isn't that great on the mic, and has a limited moveset. Baron Corbin in NXT is pretty much the NXT version of Roman Reigns. But that's the developmental system, so it makes sense. Look up Baron Corbin. Awesome finisher. Dude just drips it factor. Miz has asked for an autograph, which pisses the Miz off. He then fires Damien Mizdow as a stunt double. To only rehire him as his personal assistant, which means he still comes out of the ring, just doesn't do any of the stuff on the outside of the ring. As Miz took on Sin Cara. with Miz down the outside, really not doing anything, but occasionally doing something, and the crowd just fucking love it. Just love it. Great stuff. Sin Cara gets beat. So I guess Miz and Mizdow have dissension in their rings, too. We're just never going to have a great tag division. We're just not. John Cena welcomes back Ziggler, Ryback, Rowan, which then sets up matches between Ryback and Harper. Good match, nice match. Two big bulls just slugging the crap out of each other with Ryback getting the victory. Good match, worked well. Ziggler Wyatt. I will say this was the second best match of the night. These two guys just threw it all out there. Two guys who the crowd is behind organically. There was no throat stuffing. Just guys who went out there night after night, tore the house down, did the best they could, and you could feel it. You could believe it. A great match. Wyatt wins Sister Abigail. Great. Curtis Axel came down to the ring because he was in the building. Talking about how he wants to be at Wrestlemania. Then Ambrose comes out and saves the segment, whooping the crap out of him. Then they're kind of going, you know what? I'd be Bray Wyatt. I'm afraid I've got some bad news. I'm taking the title off you, Bray. I'm taking the title off you, Barrett. Sorry. Dropped the mic and like left, and I'm like, that's an awesome promo. It's a great promo. Curtis Axel's like, today is the genesis of the beginning of the moment that happened when Curtis Axel, who is a solid in-ring technical wrestler who does not speak very well on the mic. Man, if only they paired him with the guy who was great on the mic, he could have gone places. Maybe he could have been repackaged. So, Ambrose Barrett for the title. Seems pretty good. I like that. Works well. Good stuff. Rusev took on Rowan. Well, Rusev, cheap shot to beat the crap out of Rowan for the majority of their match, which got over Rusev well. Then have a lot of Morris run down Cena. Good stuff. That's what I want to hear. Still thinking, man, had Rusev won, Rusev Lesnar would have been a fantastic match. You're two guys. You're beast incarnate, and the monster Rusev. Lesnar having to kind of be like the American face. You know, the undefeated guy versus the flat-out monster who's had a hellacious year. Would have been some good stuff. Would have been a massive feather in the cap for Rusev. Rusev would have been an undefeated U.S. World Heavyweight Champion. That would have been huge. And the crowd always is stupid behind Rusev's character. It's a strong character, strong wrestler, cuts enough of a promo to make it interesting, has got Lana to do the majority talking for him. It's kind of like, it wasn't Paul Heyman, it was like Paulina Heyman. Your same sort of spiel. Works. Paige took on Alicia Fox with the fellas on commentary. Hashtag haters gonna hate, Bella's gonna ball. Wasn't there like a limit to a big hashtag can be? I don't know. There's a limit to it's like 100 and something. And literally the saving grace of that whole match was the fact that Paige is a face again. The Divas division is like they're all big shows. At any point in time they can switch from heel or face whenever something happens. So she kind of takes the nice backbreaker. Alicia Fox, great backbreaker. Also amazing Northern Lights as well. Hits a backbreaker, and then Paige kind of does like a kind of sloppy roll because her foot's under the bottom rope. The Bellas then come in and hit her with, I guess it's spray tan? Because she's too white. Yeah. Divas Wrestling. You too white. I hit you with spray tan. Oh. And now we'll talk about the big cat Ernie Ladd. Oh, and worst call of the night. Luke Harper hits, is that called a helo? It was one of the moves that Eddie Guerrero always agreed to do a flip over the top rope and land on his opponent. So your opponent would be right next to the ropes, and you really quick flip over, almost kind of like a flip senton. I want to say it's called a helo. It's been a while since I've actually Lucha Underground from them about. JBL says it's like a zombie Eddie Guerrero. Technically, Eddie Guerrero doing that move now would be a zombie. Poor choice of words. But now, the main event. Rollins, Daniel Bryan. They locked the doors, doused it in gasoline, and set that sucker on fire. Fire. Just, oh man. Watching those guys when they were younger, when it was, said Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, taking on Tyler Black, and their match at Ring of Honor, where they would just, to coin JBL, like wrestling in someone else's body, and then leaving that body like in a dumpster because it's broken and useless after you finish doing this match. Just great stuff. Told an amazing story. And this goes back to that moment when John Cena was taking on CM Punk to finally decide who was going to take on The Rock for the main event for the title at WrestleMania. And CM Punk and John Cena put on a tremendous match. It more or less made you think, man, we got the wrong two people in the main event. These two guys put on an amazing match. Great back and forth. The end sees, Big Show turn around, eat a pretty nice spear from Roman Reigns. I think the fact that he almost ran like the whole length of the ramp gave a pretty nice spear. He then attacks J&J Security. Alright, makes sense. Hits a Superman punch on Seth Rollins. Bryan hits the big knees. 1, 2, 3. Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, fast lane to decide who gets the opportunity to probably beat Brock Lesnar. You need to play this one pretty fast and loose. If Reigns wins clean in the center of the ring, for your free month, if you're a new subscriber, that's gonna kind of tick off some of your fans. Fastlane already shaping up to be a unique pay-per-view. We're gonna look at 3 principal matches. If Ambrose becomes champ, people are gonna be happy. If he doesn't become champ, it doesn't matter. He doesn't really need the belt. Rusev, Cena. If John Cena gets the first pinfall victory on Rusev, that's going to be horrible. Rusev can lose by countout, by DQ. In fact, I would love to see him put the accolade on Cena, have Cena pass out, have him just hold him into the accolade until the ref calls for a DQ. Perfect. Cena gets to go off looking strong. Rusev gets to go off looking like a pissed maniac. Works. And then Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns. If you have Daniel Bryan win, then everyone's gonna go, you know what? Roman Reigns, you've got all of the pieces. Just not all lined up correctly. Yes, I know, I've only wrestled a handful of matches. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't be the person who's going to criticize you, Roman Reigns. I've seen some other interviews. Lots of people agree. You are one of the future faces of the WWE. However, last year, everyone wanted Daniel Bryan. We got Batista. The crowd was pissed because we wanted Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan gets the moment, loses it due to injury. Now he's back. Great. We can have that moment again. We have Reigns. Where instead, Reigns, who was injured last year, should lose to Daniel Bryan. If Daniel Bryan loses to Lesnar, that's fine. You know, he will have had the opportunity if he loses but puts on a good enough match, or if they do a really crazy thing and Rollins talks to him and goes, listen, I know I can't beat Lesnar. You know you can't beat Lesnar. Let us help you beat Lesnar. Knowing that way that Rollins can get the title off him at any point in time. Or you have him, you know, retain, come back next night on Raw and be like, you know, I've done everything I've set out to do. I've made him at WrestleMania. I've ended the streak. You then be like, I can list however as long as I want to. But you know what? I'm done. Have him vacate the title. Do a summer series to crown your new champion. You know, or have him come out, say he's going to vacate the title, have him get the massive beatdown by a bunch of different people, curb stops, Seth Rollins takes the title off of him. Either way. You know. Having Reigns steamroll through Bryan, and then unless he has some sort of new awesome finisher. Like if he were to hit a spear, Superman punch, and then another spear, like a Go-Go Palata, or hit like, you know, like a shooting star, then maybe. But right now, it's not your year, Reigns. Reigns actually needs 1 to 2 more legitimate solid feuds. One he had with Orton was going well, got cut short because of injury. It happens. He needs that 1 to 2 good feuds. Like if he be the person who'd be going up against Rusev, I'd be fine with that. I think if he'd be the person who were to defeat Rusev at WrestleMania and end his unbeaten streak, become the U.S. champion, and then feud with him for a couple of months, and then it comes after SummerSlam, toss him in the main event, sure, cool, of course. It's not now. It's not quite your time. Wait for it. Wait for it. This is not the Monday Night Wars. This is not the time when you can throw somebody together like Goldberg. Where you're like, great look, crowd's behind him, push to the moon, done. They've already showed a lot of the holes in his game. Cesaro got to cut one promo live, made a mistake, has held the mic since. Roman Reigns still gets the mic.